Grief is a strange and silent beast. It creeps into your life not with a roar, but with the subtlety of a door left ajar, enough to let in the cold. I never imagined I'd be learning that through the death of my daughter. My wife and I had always believed in giving our little girl, Emily, a life filled with warmth, family, and laughter. She was just 2 years old, all chubby cheeks, wild curls, and a giggle that could brighten even the darkest corners of your heart. She was curious about everything. Every butterfly was a miracle, every puddle a universe. She was our entire world wrapped in a pink onesie and jelly sandals. The weekend of the tragedy had begun like any other, filled with plans and promise. We were visiting my mom at her countryside home, a place surrounded by trees, distant hills, and a stillness so profound it sometimes felt like time slowed there. My mother's house was a retreat, a sanctuary that we often used to unwind and escape the noise of the city. It had always been a safe place. That Saturday afternoon was warm, the kind of warmth that smells of grass, sunscreen, and melting popsicles. Emily loved playing in the backyard, especially near the flower beds and the bird bath. My mom had recently cleaned out the pool, something she did each spring, and we knew it was filled again. But we also knew she was always cautious, even neurotic, about watching Emily. My wife and I had gone into town to pick up groceries and run a few errands, leaving Emily under my mother's care. My mom, a retired school teacher, was the most trusted person we knew when it came to children. She had raised me, after all, and practically co-parented our niece and nephew in their early years. We had no reason to worry. But everything can change in an instant. According to the security footage later reviewed by authorities, it was a simple chain of events. A fire alarm went off inside the house. It was faulty, a short circuit or a battery issue, but it was loud, piercing, and sudden. My mother panicked and rushed inside to make sure nothing was burning. She was gone for exactly 1 minute and 57 seconds. That was enough time. Emily, always adventurous, always drawn to water, had wandered closer to the pool. There was no gate, a lapse we'd never considered urgent because someone was always present. But that day, in that moment, she was alone. When my mom returned, she screamed. She told us later that she didn't remember sprinting, only the crushing silence when she pulled Emily out of the water. She was unresponsive. My mom tried CPR again and again, with trembling hands and tears clouding her vision. She called 911, but help was slow to come. Her house was remote. It took the ambulance over 30 minutes to arrive. By the time the medics got there, it was too late. We received the call while driving back from town. I remember my wife's scream, a sound I never want to hear again. I remember dropping the groceries in the driveway and running past the sirens. I remember seeing my mother soaked, collapsed on the lawn, cradling Emily's tiny body in her arms, rocking back and forth as if she could soothe her back to life. The next few weeks were a blur. The funeral, the silence, the guilt. Everyone told us it wasn't anyone's fault, that it was a tragic accident. But that didn't make it easier. My wife and I grieved in different ways. I tried to hold on to the structure of life, keeping busy, returning to work, keeping in touch with my mom, who was just as broken as we were. My wife, though, collapsed inward. Her world stopped. She began to retreat from everything and everyone. There were nights she'd wake up screaming, others when she'd sit in the nursery for hours just holding Emily's stuffed animals. I tried to comfort her, but I often felt like I was speaking through a wall of glass. Eventually, we began attending grief counseling. That's when the real fissures began to show. During one session, my wife said something that stayed with me. "I can't look at your mother the same way. Every time I see her, I see Emily's last breath." I understood the pain behind her words, but I couldn't bring myself to agree. I saw my mother every day after the incident, in my mind's eye, sobbing on the grass, desperately trying to save Emily. I knew she would trade her life for Emily's if she could. I didn't blame her. I couldn't. Still, I tried to respect my wife's boundaries. I didn't invite my mom over. I stopped showing her texts or updates, but I didn't cut her off either. I couldn't. Then came last week, my mother's birthday. I had gone online to find something modest but meaningful. A book she'd wanted, something comforting, something to let her know she wasn't forgotten. My wife walked in and saw my laptop screen. Her face went still. Not angry, not sad, just empty. She asked me quietly but firmly, "Are you still talking to her?" I hesitated. I didn't want to lie. "Yes." Her eyes filled with tears. But it wasn't surprise. It was disappointment, the kind that wraps around your heart and squeezes. "She took our daughter," she said. I tried to explain again how it was an accident, how my mother had done everything she could, how I needed to hold on to some piece of my past, some thread of normalcy. But it didn't matter. That night, my wife gave me an ultimatum. "If you keep her in your life, I can't stay in this marriage." I didn't sleep at all. I sat on the living room floor, surrounded by Emily's toys, and I thought about how fragile everything had become. How one moment, one faulty alarm, one missing gate, one innocent assumption had shattered 3 lives. And now I'm standing at a crossroads where every road feels like a betrayal. I can either sever the bond with the woman who raised me and who grieves just as deeply as I do, or I can lose the woman I chose to build my future with, the mother of the child we lost. There is no right answer. Only sorrow, only silence, and a pool in the backyard that no one will ever swim in again. It's been 3 weeks since my wife gave me the ultimatum. I haven't made a decision. Or maybe I have, and I'm just too afraid to admit it to myself. The days blur into each other now, each one heavy with unsaid words and sleepless nights. We live in the same house, but there's a chasm between us. Silent, wide, and impossible to cross without reopening every wound. She doesn't speak to me unless she has to. I don't blame her. Every time she looks at me, I know she sees betrayal. I know she wonders how I can still find compassion for the woman she holds responsible for the worst moment of our lives. But what she doesn't understand, what no one really understands, is that I lost something that day too. I didn't just lose my daughter. I lost my mother too. At least the version of her I once knew. She's not the same woman anymore. She rarely answers my calls, and when she does, it's quiet, shaky. She's always on the verge of crying. She doesn't say Emily's name out loud, she just says her, as though uttering it might break her apart. I replay it every night, she whispered to me during one of our recent conversations. I hear the alarm, the sound of the door, the splash I didn't hear. I should have stayed outside. I should have grabbed her, even if it meant burning down the house. I wanted to tell her to stop. That we've all played this game, the what-if game, and it always ends the same way, with more pain. But I couldn't stop her. She needed to say it. She needed to suffer because guilt is the only thing she has left of Emily now. Last Friday, I stayed home from work. My wife had gone out. She's been staying with her sister more and more lately, and the house was quiet. Too quiet. I wandered into Emily's room, a place I haven't had the courage to enter since the funeral. Everything was untouched. Her toys still sat in their boxes. Her favorite blanket, the one with yellow stars, was still on the rocking chair. There was a faint scent in the air, like baby lotion and old lullabies. I sat down on the floor and cried for the first time in weeks. That night, I found an old video on my phone. Emily was singing the ABCs with my mom. She kept skipping the letter J and laughing hysterically about it. My mother, patient and gentle, kept encouraging her. It was just 2 minutes long, but it gutted me, because in that moment, they were both so full of life, so connected. There was no pain, no loss, no blame, just love. The next morning, I printed a copy of the photo from that day. Emily on my mother's lap, holding up a stuffed rabbit like it was a trophy. I took it to my mom's house and left it in her mailbox. No note, no text, just the image. A piece of what was, a reminder of the bond they had before tragedy tore us all apart. My wife found out. I didn't try to hide it. When she asked, I told her the truth. She didn't yell, she didn't cry, she just stood in the doorway of our bedroom and said, "You've made your choice." Then she started packing. I begged her not to go. I told her that I loved her, that I loved our daughter more than anything, that I wasn't choosing my mother over her. I was just trying to hold on to the last bit of family I had left, but she couldn't hear me anymore. She was already halfway gone. She moved out that weekend. We haven't spoken since, except through the therapist we were both seeing. She wants space, time to heal. She's not filing for divorce yet, not officially, but it feels inevitable now. And I'm left here, in this house filled with ghosts. Ghosts of bedtime stories and bath time and giggles and first words. Ghosts of a life that was beautiful until it wasn't. People keep telling me there's no right or wrong in grief. That loss breaks us in different ways. Some people need distance, others need connection. Some shut down, others cling to whatever fragments remain. I don't know where I fall in that spectrum anymore. I just know I miss them both. I miss my wife. The way her eyes lit up when Emily learned something new, the way she used to hum softly while folding laundry. I miss my daughter, her tiny feet patting down the hallway, her voice calling out, "Dada," when I came home from work. And somehow, I miss my mother. Not just the person she was, but the bond we had. The sense of trust that now feels too painful to even speak of. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if we can ever be a family again. Any of us. Maybe grief doesn't bring people together. Maybe it just teaches us how easily everything can fall apart. But for now, I still light a candle in Emily's room each night. I sit there for a few minutes in silence, breathing in the memory of her. And I wait. Not for answers, not for forgiveness, just for the silence to become bearable. It's been 6 months. Half a year since my wife walked out of our shared life, carrying only a suitcase and the weight of grief that refused to be shared anymore. Half a year since I stood in the doorway, watching her car disappear down the driveway, knowing that the silence she left behind would be louder than any goodbye. People often say time heals all wounds. What they don't tell you is that healing doesn't mean returning to who you were. It means learning to exist as someone new, someone scarred, someone quieter, and in my case, someone lonelier. The house still looks the same, but it doesn't feel like home anymore. Emily's room is exactly how we left it. I don't go in as often now, but I can't bring myself to change anything either. The room has become a frozen memory, a shrine to what once was. I've boxed up some of her clothes, sent others to charities, but I kept her blanket. That stays with me, folded neatly on the couch, as if she might come toddling in any moment to demand it. I still light a candle every night. Some nights I talk to her, out loud. I tell her about the weather, the birds in the yard, or the way the light hit the windows that morning. Other nights I say nothing. I just sit, hoping that whatever is left of her in this world still hears me. As for my mother, she's become quieter. Our relationship exists in small, cautious moments now. Phone calls on Sundays, a few shared meals in silence. No mention of the pool, no mention of Emily. Just quiet attempts at normalcy, like two people slowly learning how to walk again after falling off a cliff. She still blames herself. I see it in the way she flinches at the sound of water, how she won't go near the backyard anymore. She hired someone to drain and fill in the pool. It's just dirt now. She planted flowers where the deep end used to be. She asked me gently if she should reach out to my wife, to apologize again, to try and talk. I told her not yet, because as much as I believe in forgiveness, I've also learned that some wounds need silence before they can even begin to close. But not everything is sadness. Somewhere in the distance, things are shifting, just a little. I saw my wife last month. It was unexpected. We ran into each other at a bookstore downtown. She looked different, not better or worse, just changed. She was holding a memoir about grief. She smiled when she saw me, but it was the kind of smile that belongs to someone who's learned how to hold herself up again. We talked, briefly. Not about Emily, not about us, just surface-level things. She said she was still going to therapy, that she was volunteering at a local children's hospital now, reading stories to the kids every Thursday. I could tell she was doing what I couldn't, finding a way to keep Emily's memory alive by giving love to others. I told her I was proud of her. She nodded, tears in her eyes, and then she left. That night, for the first time in months, I didn't light the candle in Emily's room. Instead, I went outside and sat on the back steps, staring at the flower bed that now covers the pool. It struck me then that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean moving on or moving away or cutting off pieces of the past. Healing means learning how to carry it all, the love, the loss, the guilt, the forgiveness, and still move forward even if you're limping. Sometimes I still dream about her. In the dreams, she's older, maybe 4 or 5, running through fields of dandelions with her stuffed rabbit in hand. She always turns around and waves at me, and I always wake up before I can wave back. But I've started writing those dreams down. Maybe one day I'll turn them into a storybook. Maybe I'll dedicate it to both Emily and her mother, the two women who taught me the deepest meanings of love, grief, and what it means to keep breathing when it feels like your heart has stopped. I don't know if my wife and I will find our way back to each other. Maybe we weren't meant to, or maybe we just needed to break so completely in order to rebuild something stronger. All I know is this: we loved our daughter with every piece of who we were, and even now, in grief, in silence, in separation, we still do. It was a rainy morning in late March when the letter arrived. No signature on the envelope, just my name, written in a familiar hand I hadn't seen in months. Delicate, neat, careful. I knew who it was from the second I touched the paper. Grief doesn't just etch into your bones. It marks your handwriting, too. I stood by the kitchen window for a long while before opening it. I watched the rain slide down the glass like teardrops too heavy to hold themselves up anymore. When I finally broke the seal and unfolded the pages, my hands trembled. I sat down and read. "Dear you." She hadn't used my name. That detail would stay with me for days. I've written this letter in my head 100 times. Sometimes it ends in anger. Sometimes it ends in forgiveness. Most of the time, it just ends in silence. But today, I needed it to exist in the world, to be real, because the weight of it has grown too much for me to keep carrying alone. I want you to know something I couldn't say out loud back then. I don't hate your mother. For a long time, I wanted to. It gave shape to my pain. It gave me somewhere to aim the part of my soul that shattered the day we lost Emily. But underneath that anger was always something else. Fear. The fear that if I forgave her, it would mean I didn't love Emily enough. That if I let go of the blame, I would be letting go of my daughter too. I see it differently now. Not entirely. The pain is still there, of course. But I understand now that your mother didn't take Emily from us. The world did. A world full of randomness and mistakes and cruel seconds that rewrite lifetimes. I still grieve every day. I wake up and reach for a child who is no longer there. But lately I've started talking to her again. Not with bitterness, but with love. I tell her about the books I read to the kids at the hospital. I imagine her telling me which stories she likes best. And sometimes, I dream of her holding my hand, walking beside me, not saying a word. Do I forgive your mom? I don't know if I'm ready to say that. But I no longer wish her pain. I know she suffers too. I know she sees Emily in every shadow. I know she would give anything to go back. And you? I've never stopped loving you. But love isn't always enough. Not when two people are carrying different versions of the same ghost. I needed space to learn who I am without you. I still don't have the answer. But if you ever want to talk, not to fix us, not to erase the past, but just to see each other again, I'm here. No expectations, no pressure, just two parents, missing the same girl. Always, me. I read the letter 3 times. Each time, the words landed differently, like echoes returning from the future, carrying something new. The anger was gone. The walls were lowered. There was sorrow, yes, but no longer the kind that screamed. This was the kind that sat beside you quietly, like an old friend who knew not to speak. That evening, I didn't light the candle in Emily's room. Instead, I took the letter and drove to my mother's house. She answered the door wearing that same tired expression she's worn every day since it happened, a mixture of apology and exhaustion. She opened her arms. I stepped into them. Neither of us said a word. We sat at her kitchen table, sipping tea like we used to, before everything cracked. I read her the letter. Her hands trembled the whole time. When I finished, she didn't say anything. She just placed her hand on mine and whispered, "She's still ours." And she was. Emily didn't belong to time or to tragedy. She belonged to us, all of us, even if we didn't belong to each other anymore. The next day, I wrote back, "Dear you, thank you for your letter. It reached me in ways I can't put into words yet, but I'm glad you wrote it. I'm glad you're talking to her again. I think she hears us, all of us. If you ever want to walk in the garden your mother planted, the one where the pool used to be, I'll be there. No pressure, no fixing, just seeing. Always me. I don't know what happens next. Maybe we meet for coffee. Maybe we sit in that flower bed in silence. Maybe we cry. Maybe we start again. Or maybe we just visit each other's lives from a distance, united by a love too deep for time to destroy. But for the first time in a long time, I believe that healing, real, honest, imperfect healing, is possible. And in that belief, I feel Emily. Still here. Still ours. Still loved.